everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I have a guest. Right now it's kind of starting tax season, and I thought that it will be very important, as my channel is geared to small business owners, to have my accountant here and to just answer some questions of some of my viewers. I want to welcome Anisa. Anisa Hans is the owner of Accountant Superheroes, and she's been my accountant for the past 8 years. And before being my accountant, she was my LAF Child 316 coach, my fiscal coach. So as my fiscal coach, she knows and oversees so many providers that have their business at home, running their business as a family daycare or as centers. And with that, to me, was the key for her to become my accountant. So I'm glad that she accepted this invitation. Anisa, welcome. Thank you for coming. I know that this morning, all this knowledge from you, it's gonna be very helpful for many of my viewers.
Good morning, hi viewers. Yes, I'm excited to be here and hopefully answer all of your questions.
Yeah, I would like you to tell our viewers some of your background as an accountant.
Okay, so I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona with an accounting degree back in 2000. And from there, I went to work as an auditor for the County of Los Angeles. And I really, really loved that. Most of my time was spent in the field, going to different county departments, and did operational audits, which was taking the time to understand how the process worked. It was not all about number crunching. It was about getting to know functions and operations. And that gave me a really strong background to go into LAF and become a fiscal coach, because I was already used to going to the field, did it all the time in the county. Now I was doing it in different types of childcare. So I would go to school districts, standalone centers, family childcare homes, and every single one operates differently. But because of my background as an auditor, I was able to grasp their needs really quickly. And then in 2010, I decided to go out on my own and start Accounting Superheroes. I am the owner, I'm the sole employee. I do everything myself. I consider I do boutique services. It's 100% by referral only. So I'm happy to be here today and hopefully help some more of you out.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see your growth. I remember when I met you, you looked so young to me, and I was like, okay, she looks so young, but so knowledgeable. I mean, you knew like all our needs as the care providers. Thanks to LAF at that time, Child 360, we got the assistance of having a financial coach. And because all our business are like different, like every family daycare is different, centers are different, but everything is in common is that we had to keep a good record keeping, and LAF allow us to just use any kind of record keeping that we have, but we had to make quarterly reports. And I remember that coaches just to try to work in a way to make easier for us doing the reports. So at that time, I did have my system. My system was at that time Excel. So good thing that LAF allow you to use your system that you have, but just be practical about getting the things that we need for our reports. So at that time, I remember Anisa was my coach, and when I met you and you came to my program, coach, she became my accountant, and she doesn't just do the taxes for my business. My husband has also a business, and he's a general contractor. She does the taxes for him, for me, understands all about personal taxes and business, and that's why we're very comfortable. And I appreciate all these years that you've been helping my program, his business, and we always come to you for questions. So thank you for that, Anisa.
You're welcome.
I do appreciate that. I do have some questions from viewers, and I would like to ask you today some questions. And one of the questions that many people right now at this time have, because with the pandemic, there has been many government assistance around. There have been grants, the PPP, the EIDL, and I know taxes might look different this year. And I wanted to ask you, is the taxes going to be complicated this year?
Not necessarily, and I'm excited to say that because there was a moment where I thought they're going to be really complicated, and maybe complicated isn't the correct word. What the taxpayers and clients are going to need to do is make sure they have all of the information clear, whether they received UA, SBA loans, different types of COVID grants. Some of those are taxable, some of those are not. And there are also some new credits that are coming out available to sole proprietors and small businesses related to COVID sick time off. So you can take advantage of all of these and not be caught in a tax storm. What has to happen is you want to make sure that you're not double dipping. Okay, so if you applied the benefits, the grant to a certain period, you should also not have taken, for example, UA benefits. Then that's double dipping and that will cause a tax problem. So you should be able to clearly identify to your tax preparer, what special things did you receive as a result of the pandemic? And what times did you apply assistance so that you don't have complications with the IRS down the road and they say, you know what, you double dipped and now you owe more taxes. So it's not complicated. It's just a matter of streamlining the information and giving it to your tax preparer.
Yes, and for that's how it's so important to have a good record keeping. I think that's the key. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's a relief that is not gonna be so much. And what is good is that all these places where we receive anything, we're gonna get a 1099, right? Unemployment, I believe I got something. I forgot. I didn't even check, but I think it's
unemployment. Yes, unemployment's going to give a 1099 out showing. And some people were very proactive in having income taxes withheld, and some were not. It's going to depend on your independent tax situation what effect that has.
Yes. I did put total taxes just in case because I wasn't paying taxes. So that way you don't get at the end of the year surprised that you own as much. So hopefully people were able to save some money if they didn't have that collected. Yes. Okay. So I used to do my taxes on my own. Maybe the first, but I can say I did it. My sister is an accountant, so we did it together. But as the years passed by, as my business was growing, I needed to have an accountant with knowledge about my field. And also to take advantage, like you say, right now there is a lot of credits. And if I will be doing taxes on my own, I might not know that information. I might miss it. I might miss all these credits, or I might miss that information. So I think it's very important that when you choose your accountant, you choose someone who knows and knows your business. Like I'm in the childcare field, so for me it was very important when I choose you to have somebody in the field. And I remember before you, I had an accountant who actually he was very good as well. And then he used to do workshops for childcare providers. So he was knowledgeable on the field, but he got overloaded with a lot of providers. So, and it did make sense to me. You're my coach, open your business. Yeah, I was happy about that. And at that time, I remember that some childcare providers were also going through the process of opening a center. You help them, right, in that process?
I have helped with the process of transitioning from family childcare to a standalone center. I've provided support with the licensing process and all of the due diligence and paperwork that's required with that. There's a lot of financial reporting that needs to happen. So yeah, I do have experience with that.
Yeah, all the legal information and that and practice. So I'm glad you had that experience. I've seen, and I know there is some family daycare providers that want to open a center and or are already in the process. So if you guys, if any of you are able to the process or want information, I really I recommend Anisa, because she went through the whole process supporting a family daycare going through that process. So I'm going to continue with the questions. Why is it important for small business owners to keep good records? And can you give us tips on how to keep records for our business?
Yeah, this is a great and important topic. Traditionally, the answer that they would give you is, you must keep good records in case you ever get audited. And that is still true. The IRS is trying to be less scary right now. Instead of pushing the idea of audit, they're pushing the idea of get educated through your tax preparer. So they're asking me to educate you on how to conduct your business properly. So now I would say, instead of being scared of the audit, the answer is it's important to keep good records because you want to have an accurate tax return. And I know that sounds obvious, but tax return is now being used for more and more things. Many of you may be familiar with the FAFSA. You always have to have a current tax return to apply for federal financial aid. But now the tax return is being required to apply for different COVID grants, for the PPP loan, for the SBA loan. And what I got contacted so much for this past year is everybody wanted to refinance because the interest rates went really low.
Yes.
And you gotta have tax returns, and they better be good tax returns, like showing that your business is successful. Otherwise, the bank isn't going to want to help you. So it's less about, the IRS and the auditor, and more about being able to access all of these resources that are out there without a good tax return. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of record keeping tips, Claudia touched on this a little while ago about how LAF Child 360 gave a lot of flexibility. That's true. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You really need to find a system that works best for you, especially daycare providers. That's a nonstop gig. You're working so many hours a day. Your priority is not record keeping or bookkeeping. I would, number one, advise to get an accountant or a tax preparer or your bookkeeper on your team, because they are really going to help guide you. In terms of finding a system that works for you, my firm is a technology firm. I started doing remote access and, paperless before it became popular. Now technology is everywhere. There's no way to avoid it. And I would strongly encourage you to incorporate that into your business. Get a laptop, get a reliable internet connection, get an email address that is specific for your business, not iloveflowers@gmail.com, the name of your business @gmail.com, mm-hmm. and start accepting payments electronically. Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, Square. I always say you should have a separate business bank account. This is why, because if you can accept payments online, then you link it to your business bank account. All of those apps come with reports. You can just print out, and there's your record of income for the year. You don't have to do anything extra just by accepting payments online. You should use Google Docs, which can be accessed and is backed up automatically. No more losing files. There are tons of apps available on your smartphone. You can take pictures of your receipts and upload them to your Google Drive. You can track your mileage in an app. You can download your banking and credit card activity, which makes sense if you have a separate business bank account and a separate business credit card. You can just download and use Excel to sort and categorize. If you want, you can use accounting software. There's a lot of pros. It's very simple and intuitive now. I do training on those types of things. If you're not comfortable with tech, there's a ton of YouTube videos out there. There's maybe a class through your city, or you probably have like a child or a niece or a nephew that can show you how to set everything up in 5
Yes.
minutes. So there's a lot of support out there.
Are the helpers.
So I would say find the method that works best for you, that is comfortable. You don't have to do what your friend down the street is doing. But also be open to embracing technology, because there are a lot of systems out there to make the process much easier. So it's not so time consuming anymore.
Yes. Yes, recently I just made a very simple video with the app about like a tiny scanner, with the phone. That was one video, because it simplifies your job. And I even look at that they have a QuickBooks on your app. So thank you for suggesting that, because with technology we don't have to have that so much overload during tax season. I remember years ago when it was tax season, it's like, oh my God, I waited until April for that reason, because it's like, going over receipts, going through those things. But as you separate your personal from business, which is the right way to do it, you have your personal, you have your business, then pretty much it's everything done, like, through bank statements. And I do what you mentioned. Unfortunately, I do make the mistake sometimes with mixing with my credit cards with business, and that somehow, I don't know why, like even Zelle, I have parents pay through Zelle, but my bank didn't want to have my Zelle go straight to my bank account, my business, only personal. But when I switch to another bank, it does go through the other bank. That's a very great tip, because that way, if you really are able to separate business with personal, all you have to do is print these reports to your accountant. So it makes it easy for both us and their accountants as well. So yeah, thank you for those tips. Those are great. And can I ask you still to dig a little bit more, like, can we go right now to some specifics? So if I have my business and I have my record keeping, can you give us kind of like a list? What things do we need for us to give it to provide to accountants to do our taxes?
So basically, you need what is the name of your business? When did you start your business? Do you have an EIN number? That's a federal tax ID that was given to you by the IRS. It's like a social security number, but for your business. And then your tax preparer, for me, all I require is summary of income and expenses. There are certain types of expenses that might require further information. For example, if on the Schedule C, which is the schedule for self-employed sole proprietors, if you want to deduct mileage type expenses, I will need the make and model of your car, beginning and ending odometer, and you're going to need to let me know the business miles that were driven in the year. I don't need to see your actual mileage log, but you need to have that system in place in case you do get audited. One of the areas I think we're going to talk about it more, but for preparing taxes is business use of home. So for family daycares, you can write off a portion of your home related expenses, mortgage or rent, property taxes, utilities, etc. So you'll need to be able to provide your tax preparer the square footage of your home, in total, the square footage of the areas that you're using for daycare or your business, your home office for a sole proprietor. And then a annual summary of your home related expenses, your mortgage interest, your property taxes, your home insurance, utilities, repairs. And then if you are a family daycare, you will also need to be able to provide room by room if it was partially used for daycare or totally used, and how many hours during the year. And that is going to allow your tax preparer to come up with a certain calculation called your business use of home rate that will then flow through to your Schedule C.
Yeah, and help us because we're running a business at home, so that's a large part of my deductions in there. So that's why we have to make sure that we keep a very good records in that area.
Very good records is important there because it is a large deduction that can happen, and it can be highly reviewed by the IRS. Unfortunately, I've had experiences where the IRS is just not really familiar with family child cares and how some of them are 24-hour. And so they just don't understand how that can be possible. And they are suspicious of a high business use of home rate. So it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means have all of your support in line. Make sure you talk to your tax preparer because that is an area that the IRS will look at if they are going to audit you.
Yes, I know that to me that's one of my large deductions, and also when I move here or when we build our home, large expenses you could depreciate over years, and so some years like I didn't have much expense, but because of the depreciation, it was able to help me, with deductions. But like we always want to deduct, of course, everything, but it's very important, like about this year, be able to have some income, because when you are when you want to refinance your house, when you want to get a loan, if you show that there's no income, then it also affects you. So bookkeeping is very important. Also, getting the advice from an accountant for things that you're gonna do in the future, because every family is like different, every business is different. Since I do appreciate your assistance and your advice every time we had need your wisdom there, that could apply to our business and our family as well. Will people who work at home, such as teachers and other, be able to benefit from business use of home this year?
So if you are a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, that means you have an LLC, but you're the only person in it, then you can benefit from business use of home. If you are a parent, who was also had to make sure that your kids were taking their online classes, doing distance learning, there's no business use of home. That's just parenting. And if you
what
are
about for those who are working at home? For example, if their business are closed and you are working from home, like you had to do your job at home, will that be also beneficial?
That is a benefit that used to be in place several years ago. It was called Unreimbursed employee expenses, and you could write off business use of home. However, with the PCGA, that when Trump became the president, he made big changes to the tax return. He removed that area. It's still gone. So right now, there's nothing that you can write off.
Okay, good to know. Good. I do have some questions from my viewers that I would like to ask you. There are more specific questions from Annette, and Annette wants to know what's the difference between Schedule C and the long form SE in taxes.
So they are both part of the tax return for someone that is a sole proprietor. SE stands for self-employment. So once you have completed your Schedule C, and you have your net income, data flows from that schedule onto your form SE and determines if you have to pay self-employment tax. And the SE form is what calculates the self-employment tax. So remember that people that are sole proprietors are the employer and the employee. That means you have to pay income tax, self-employment tax, which covers your Social Security contributions and Medicare contributions. And the SE form is what calculates that.
Yes, we had to, that's the part where we do double taxing. Okay, so I have another question, and this question is from Katie, and her question is that and I think you covered most of this already, but I'm just going to ask you this question. Business owners running our program in from a home, is there a lot of deductions that we could have that could benefit for our taxes?
Yes, there are a lot. Some of them you may not have thought of. So there's the business use of home. There's all of your supplies, advertising, if you have to rent any equipment, professional fees, office expenses. I think majority is like food for the children and supplies to keep them occupied are traditionally your largest. So this is where it's helpful to put everything through your business debit card or credit card, and then you can look at all of the vendors, you know, where you made your purchases at, all Lake Shores and Targets and things like that, and know that they're most likely all deductible on the tax return.
Yes, yes. And yeah, there is so much expenses that sometimes I feel like, oh, this year I don't have to buy anything. But later when I look at my credit card, it's like, well, little by little, it adds up, those expenses. Okay, I have another question from Tesalo Daycare Preschool. And her question is, she would like to know if she moved her business from an LLC or S Corp. Also, should I put myself in payroll? Is it convenient to be in payroll as a childcare provider?
It's a big question. It's a good one. There's actually a kind of a hybrid approach called a single member LLC with an S Corp election. So if you are an LLC and you're the only person, there is no payroll. LLC only has owner's draw. Sole proprietors have owner's draw. So you have to be an S Corp to be put on payroll. There are many advantages to being put on payroll. It goes back to what's happening right now in the current economy with the refinances. If you want to buy a house or a rental house or refinance, the banks are looking for 2 years worth of W-2s. If you don't have those and you're a sole proprietor, the threshold and the hoops you have to jump through are much, much more difficult. So it is worth considering to put yourself on payroll. There are typically dollar thresholds that your accountant can help you identify once they have seen your financial statements, and they say, okay, once you get to this much in gross receipts, it's probably going to be beneficial to start transitioning to an S corporation format and put yourself on payroll, because the tax savings is going to be good and it's going to help you for things that you don't know you need down the road with having a W-2.
Yeah, so it's more like case by case. Yeah, it depends because, you know, family daycares, every business, it's different, you know. Since there is a small family daycares, large family daycares, the ones who open more hours, of course, they have, you know, more income. I myself, you know, I have a large family daycare, but I run only less hours, so my income is different. And also when you have children from subsidy programs, so the income between family daycares is very different. So for some, it might be convenient. Okay, the next question is for Virginia. Her question is that if she reports these expenses of her house and she seems to have large expenses, since she added a patio, she added some lighting, she had to pay an engineer for electricity, how will she be able to deduct those expenses of her home that was also used for her daycare because she added a patio? How will she deduct these expenses? How would you recommend to deduct these expenses in her business?
So the area where patio improvements would be incorporated would be on the business use of home schedule. Whether or not I would deduct them would depend on what's going on with the rest of the tax return. What that means is if you already have loss on your Schedule C, then business use of home expenses are not going to give you a bigger loss. They're going to just roll forward to the next year. And I would want to see what your plans are for the future about how long you're going to live in the house. Sometimes these large improvements are better captured when you sell the home. You have more tax advantage there instead of being deducted on your business use of home. And you want to make sure that you can justify that the children are going to be using the patio. So should it even be deducted is where we're going to start. So I know it's not a straightforward answer because taxes are not straightforward.
Yeah, everything depends. Everything.
So it goes to show that It can be done. It needs to be done correctly. That may not be the right decision. It depends on what else is going on in your tax return.
And that reminds me, when I had my previous home, we did a lot of upgrades on the home, but then later we decided to move to a new place, and all my expenses over there was set up. I guess my accountant, I forgot to tell him that I was planning to move, that he depreciated in almost, I think, for 15 or 30 years. So at that time, it didn't benefit me because I ended up paying a lot of taxes. And then I moved, and I wasn't able to benefit from all these expenses that I did. But that's what I think is very important for us to tell our accountants our future plans, because they could guide us better. That was a big mistake I did at that time. Okay, so I have another question. This comes from a little bit about the food program, and I know you are familiar with this as well. This one is from Thea Rochelle, and it says that if we no longer have to keep receipts for food program, how are we gonna deduct the taxes?
So food program is one of those areas that it's almost similar to mileage expenses, that on the state food program websites, they have standard reimbursement rates. So if you are unable to keep track of all of your different food receipts, they break it down for you that for breakfast and snacks and lunch, this is the reimbursable rate per child. And so you can do your own calculation based on your enrollment to come up with a standard deduction for food expenses. And I think it's the same for mileage. Each year the IRS issues an updated mileage reimbursement rate that you can use instead of tracking how much you spent on gas and car washes and repairs, the actuals. You can instead use a standard rate, and that rate is designed to include normal wear and tear on the car and typical repairs. The concept is the same for both, and they're both available online.
Yes, that's a savings of time, like not using the standard deduction, because that way you don't have to keep track of the receipts. But if you don't keep track of the receipts, we still have to keep track of the attendance and the foods we prepared, because I'm sure that if we're deducting that amount, and if we get audit, we had to show, these many children were here, and we provide breakfast, snack, and lunch. So we had to also keep the records, and we could keep it in a simple way. I do have a food program, and the food program does give us a report for the meals that they reimburse, because it's a reimbursement. But I also keep track of the meals that I wasn't reimbursed, because the food programs already reimburse you 3 meals, and if you have a child all day, most likely you provide 4 meals. So the 4th meal, it's not reimbursed. But if you keep track of those meals, then we could add it at the end of the year to get that amount deducted as well, using the standard deduction. So I'm really thankful for that system, because many years ago, it was such a pain of, keeping all these receipts. Plus, it was such a waste of time, because I had a whole receipt that was like my family things, my food things. So it was a dilemma. So I think that's a very good saving on time right now. One more question. I think we have 2 more to go. I'm going on Alma, and Alma wants to know if it's true that starting 2020, taxes will not be accepting 1099 for assistance. I guess to be used for employees.
Okay, so this sounds like a question that is, do I have an employee versus do I have an independent contractor? Mm-hmm. For family daycares, 99.99% of the time, the person that is working for you should be classified as an employee. That means they get a W-2, they have payroll taxes withheld, and you submit those payroll taxes to the IRS and to the EDD. If you haven't been doing that, then in January of 2020, a ruling called AB5 came into effect. It was meant to address gig workers like Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, to protect them and make sure they had employee benefits. But that applies to everybody. So anyone that is being paid as a 1099 contractor has to be able to demonstrate that they are a legitimate business. That means they have an EIN, their own insurance, licensing, things like that. So the person that is a teacher's assistant working in your classroom is probably not qualified as a separate business and should not be receiving a 1099. Further, starting in tax year 2020, what was formerly known as the 1099 MISC form is now the 1099 NEC. That stands for 1099 non-employee compensation. So those were enacted as part of the AB5 ruling, and down the road, they are going to be examined. People that get 1099s, the government agencies are going to be verifying that they actually are a non-employee contractor versus an employee that, you know, was misclassified.
Yes, and that's very important because if we are family daycares and we have an employee, then we should follow all the legal requirements to hire an employee and provide them a W-2 in our payroll. They have teachers from we had dance teachers, and they have their own business, and they come and teach some hours, so I'm able to give them the 1099. And, you know, because they have their own business. So, okay, good question. Thank you for answering them. And yeah, I think that this was a lot of questions that we asked. Thank you, Anisa, because you were so patiently providing information. I'm sure a lot of people might have a lot of questions that they can personally call you. So for all of you guys that have, more questions, I'm going to leave Anisa's information in the link in the description and her description. So you guys may call her yourself and ask him those questions because, like, yeah, every business is different. Anisa is so knowledgeable in the daycare field, but in all business, in any business. So if you're a small business owner and you don't have an accountant, I highly recommend you, Anisa. She's very knowledgeable. And yeah, I'm so glad to be able to have someone I could count whenever I have questions. She even taught me how to do some of my own reports when I needed to do. So thank you, Anisa, for all these years that you provide us with your great service. I love having you. Know that I could count with you. And
well, thank you for all the compliments. I would request if anyone does feel like they want to reach out to me for further follow-up, the best way to reach me is through text or email. If you pick up the phone and call me, that's probably going to result in a lot of phone tag. So if you can reach out to me by text or email first and we set up a designated time to go over your questions, then that's helpful. And I have gotten some messages already. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish. So if you could have someone stand by in English to help you translate your question, that would be helpful too. Thank you.
Oh, yes. I forgot to mention to some of my viewers because they were asking me for who does my taxes. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to invite you because, it's very important to have someone like you. I'm going to write her number, like text, like you say, and she does reply me very fast. She has a special offer for my viewers, and I'm going to let Anisa tell what do you have for them.
So as a result of the collaboration with Claudia and the Joy of Learning Academy, if anyone would like their tax preparation services done through me, Accounting Superheroes, I'm offering a $50 discount off the tax preparation fees if you contact me prior to March 1st. I do have quite a specific intake process for tax preparation services, so be sure to contact me timely if that's something that you're interested in. $50 off preparation services by March 1st.
Thank you, Anisa. I do appreciate that you're giving this large discount. Most places don't even do that, but I really appreciate that you're able to, to help and give this such a large discount for my viewers. And thank you. And I'm sure that if you get Anisa, you're gonna love her, and you're gonna love her, and it's gonna keep you in track with your business. So I hope you guys take advantage of this offer. And make sure that she mentioned that that's before March 1st. So don't wait last minute because she's really busy towards the end. So many business wants to to get her service. And yeah, I'm gonna do my taxes early this year. That's a promise, Anisa, because I know I'm going to need the last minute. Like this year, I do need to get it soon. Okay, so thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.